so we are with you today, and this is going to be the Yummy Burger. Just a quick name we came up with. So, start off with, I have 2.5 pounds of ground beef. This is about 90-10. They recommend 80-20. We like a little bit cleaner or a little bit leaner beef. It's really up to you, whatever type you want. All right, so to my beef, I'm going to add, and the recipe will be in the comments below, so you don't have to write down the amounts, just the process. So I have here 1 tablespoon of onion powder. I've got about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of paprika, and then I've got about 1 teaspoon of beef base. So I am going to go ahead and put in that beef base, and then all these seasonings. Now you'll know salt and pepper, you'll see it on there. Salt and pepper gets put on last. So that becomes seasoning on the beef. And then also what we're going to add to this is a 1/4 teaspoon of liquid smoke. So I've got a half, so we're going to do half that on here. So just put half. Okay, to this we are also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of liquid smoke. Okay, so go ahead and add that in there as well. And then now this is the part people either love or hate, and we're just going to mix this with our hands. There's no other way to do it. So we want to make sure we get this beef base nice and combined in here. Now anytime you mix something with your hands are warm, so what's going to happen is you're going to heat up the meat and the fat, and it's going to lose its binding ability, so to speak. So what we're going to do is, once we get all this mixed up and bound together, we're going to shape our patties, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator for 15 minutes just to allow it to set up before we go to the skillet with it. So I'm just going to go ahead, and you want to make sure this gets combined very well. Now you'll have a lot of people that say, you know, you shouldn't overwork your hamburger. You know, if you're grinding chuck from scratch, then there's some concerns about over mixing your meat or getting it too warm. But this is coming from the supermarket. It's already been overground. So what we're doing is not doing anything worse to it than it's already happened to it. So we're just going to go ahead and incorporate all that. And we're going to make sure it's mixed really good, because we want to make sure that beef base is mixed. We want to make sure the liquid smoke gets through all the pieces and sections of the meat, and then of all of our seasonings. We don't want to have all of our seasonings in one section and then it's overpowering or it's hot and spicy. So I've got myself a plate here, and basically what I'm going to do is divide this into 6 sections. I'm not going to weigh it. A lot of people say weigh it. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to cut this down to half like this. We'll call that 1/2 of my meat. And then just eye it. So here's the halfway section. So I'm going to come over to about right here. Say that's 1/3 and that's 1/3. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to make a nice tight ball with this. And you can see that's a good size burger. Good size adult burger. And you want them kind of bigger because we're trying to make a nice, moist, juicy burger. It's going to hold up to some frying. So we're going to squeeze that together nice and tight. Not using egg, any other binding agent outside of just the beef and the fat. So You want them all to be about the same size because when they're frying, and the method I'm using, we want to make sure they're all done the same. So here's my half again. We'll come over a little bit. I'm going to say that's my third, and there, that's my third. So we'll go ahead and take this and just compress these. And as you can see, there's our burger. Okay, so now that we have our meatball patties, we're going to make these about 5 inches in diameter. And then what I'm doing is I'm pushing this down, but at the same time I'm keeping the sides kind of thick. And then what I want to do here is I want to push down the middle of these burgers. And I want my outside to be very thick like a disc and my inside to be pretty thin. And what this is going to do is the outsides always cook faster than the inside of the burger. So by making the inside smaller and the outside thicker, it'll allow my inside to get done just as quick as my outside of my burger. We want to make sure this is all nice and rounded. Make sure it's roughly the same size so it cooks evenly. And there's one of our burgers. Let me show you it one more time. So take a round burger, we're going to push it down, and as we're pushing it down, we're making sure we're keeping it round around the edges. Almost like you're doing a pizza dough. Push it in the middle, and then make sure it's nice and round. Okay, and remember we want to keep it thin in the middle and thicker along the edges. I like to keep it sealed. It's like a nice round edge on my burger. Looks nice, fits the bun better. Okay, so there we've got thinner in the middle and thicker along the edges. All right, so just like that, the burgers have been formed. They are done. We are now going to put them in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes. Okay, so while our oven is coming up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and our burgers are chilling, we are going to get some good old-fashioned tin foil out here. You want to cut a nice big section, maybe 24 inches, I would say, roughly. Shiny side together, not dull side. There's two sides of foil. Shiny side we want to be in. So we're going to fold this, and basically what we're going to do is be making kind of an envelope. And we want a tight sealing envelope. So let's match up these two sides here. And we'll go ahead and fold that down. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to roll and seal. Just like that. Roll and seal. And we'll do that about 3 times on that side. Okay, then we're going to take the bottom and do the same thing. We're going to fold that up and do that about 3 times. So all we're doing is making an envelope. 3 times. That's 2. Let's do one more time. And there's 3. So when you're all done, what you should have is a tinfoil envelope with one side that's completely, that you can open, so it becomes a pocket like that. Okay guys, so I prefer, if you want like a restaurant type sear on your burgers, you almost have to use a cast iron skillet. For some reason they sear the best meat. But if you don't have one, that's fine. It's not necessary. It's just what I prefer. So that's what I am using. So what I'm doing is I've got my heat on about a little bit more than medium high. So medium's down the middle. I'm up about a third of the way to high, or 2/3 from low. So I'm letting my skillet get super hot because we want to, as soon as we put our ground patty in here, we want to sizzle. If we stick it in and it doesn't sizzle, we're actually going to boil the burger in its own juices, and that won't create a sear. So we have to make sure that as soon as we put our burger in there, it starts immediately to make a sizzling sound. And you can see the pan is actually starting to smoke. When you see a smoky pan, especially cast iron, you know that you're getting close to the temperature that you need. We're not putting anything in this. The fat from the burgers will actually create its own oil juice to season the pan with. So I'm going to go ahead and take, I don't know how many of these I can fit in here. You don't want to overcrowd. You hear that sizzle? That's what we want. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. So my pan's not very big, so I'm only going to be able to do 2 burgers at a time. So I'm going to put my burgers back in the refrigerator and let them stay in there while this happens. But I've got here salt and pepper mixture, equal parts, and I'm just going to season very well both sides of my burger. Now I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit because I know I'm sizzling. Season, season, season. Just like that. I don't pre-season my burgers because they tend to absorb and the salt kind of becomes almost liquidy and it pulls too much of the juices out of the burger. We want to keep them in the burger. So, and I only season one side of my burger. I do not season both sides. We do a little less salt in this family, so we're only doing one side. If you want to do both sides, you would have seasoned the one side of the burger, put it seasoned side down, and season the second side. So we're just going to go ahead and let this smoke. And here's how you know when it's ready to turn, is it should release by itself. You shouldn't have to scrape it up. So once you have it to the point that it needs to be, it's going to naturally release. Now this is not going to cook all the way. All we're doing is searing the outside of this burger. I'm going to go ahead, it's released itself. I'm going to flip it, and you can see how it's got this beautiful charring, but it's not burnt, and it's not cooked all the way through. So let's turn this one over and take a look at this one. Same way, beautiful. It's got this charring, which is going to give you the flavor, but it's not burnt. Now these burgers are not going to cook all the way through. What's going to happen is we are simply searing these off, and then once they've been seared off, we are going to put them in our cute little tinfoil envelope that we created. And the theory here is, which works, not just a theory, is we're searing them off to get that brown, putting them in an enclosed space, and then we're going to seal that envelope completely up, put it in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, and all those juices are going to stay in there. It's going to stay within its own, all the juices are going to be poured on the inside, cook all the way through, and we'll have a very delicious, juicy burger on the other side of this. Okay guys, so in my little envelope here, I have all of my burgers, and then all I'm going to do is just envelope this side as well. So I'm just going to pull this together, and seal it, and do about three folds in it. So what I'm trying to do is lock all that steam in there. There. So that's nice and sealed. It's a nice little packet. And I'm now going to put this in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes on 400 degrees. And my oven was preheated. Get this back on the stove top. And what I'm going to do is I am going to saute some onions. I'm going to do red onion today in here. So I am sticking some of my frozen red onion just right in the hot pan. Just like that. And I'm going to saute those on low heat, medium heat. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil. You can use whatever oil you want. Alright, so I'm just sauteing these up. There's a little bit of the browning residue that was left over from my burgers that I made. It's still sitting in there, so we'll get some of that flavor. Okay, so for the French fry recipe, what I'm going to do is I've sliced up on a mandolin about 3 potatoes. So that's roughly the size of my potatoes. I am not rinsing them. I want them to remain wet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here about a cup of self-rising flour. I'm going to stick this right in my pan, in my bowl. Quite a cup. So about a cup of self-rising flour. That looks pretty good. And then into this I'm going to put some black pepper. I'd say maybe we're putting in 1/4 teaspoon. I'll put in about 1/4 teaspoon of regular kosher salt. And then my favorite thing to put in is some Old Bay, and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of Old Bay. And then what I'm going to do is just mix this with my hand, just like this. And then I'm going to take my French fries that have not been rinsed. They were just cut, so they still have the starch on them. I'm going to put them in here, and I'm just going to toss them around. Just like that. Make sure they don't stick together, because you want to get all the French fries coated with that flour. So then I'm going to put, and I batch these, so I do a few at a time. Then I mix just like this, just give them a toss. Just like that. Now I'm going to put in more. Make sure they're separated. that I've got that way, I am going to, we have just a really tiny deep fryer here, but it still gets the job done. So I'm going to bring my deep fryer over here, get it at an angle where you guys can see. I'll be back here a little bit. So I've got my deep fryer up as high as it'll go, which is 375 degrees. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my French fries here, and I'm literally going to pull them out one at a time. They've been with all that batter on them, and I'm going to drop them in. And I'm going to put enough fries in here so they don't touch, they don't stick together. But I don't want to overfill my basket because I do have a tiny one. That looks like enough, and you don't want your oil to drop too low in temperature. And if you can tell, there's no fizzling going on, no nothing. So I'm going to give these a little shake and let them cook. And now how you can tell a French fry is done is a lot of the boiling, or what looks like boiling of water on top of this will stop. And then the French fries will be golden brown. Not dark. You don't want them too dark. You don't want them because they'll taste burnt. And then I take mine and I dry them on a paper towel. So I'm just going to get myself a nice section of paper towel here. And I am going to make sure my deep fryer stays plugged in. We're just frying these. So the theory behind the flour is it dries out the potato. The starch that's in the potato will actually allow the flour to stick in any seasoning that's in it. So this way you can tell you get a very evenly seasoned French fry. If you've ever been to a restaurant, you get a pile of French fries and they're super salty in some places, they're greasy, and they're nasty kind of, bar food almost, if you will. That is a potato that was not cooked correctly, and they seasoned it after they put it all together, which will give you a nasty French fry. Now, you can look down in the description below for all the ingredients that I used here. They're just kind of roughs. If you don't like some of the seasonings I put in, you could do whatever seasonings you want into the flour and mix it together. That is completely up to you. You can see those are getting nice and golden, and that's what we're looking for. Keeping my oil hot. If you overload your deep fryer, it'll cool down too fast and the French fries will get soggy and nasty. And that's why I drop my French fries in one or two at a time and give it a little shake just to make sure they're not sticking together. We don't do a lot of deep fried foods in our house, so that's why I don't have a very large deep fryer. Alright, so we're going to pull up our French fries, and you can see they're nice golden brown. Now, because of the seasonings we have in there, it's going to make it a little bit darker in color. The Old Bay has a red tint to it, so it's making it look a little darker than typical. But what we're going to do is just kind of let those set in the basket for just a couple minutes and allow those to just naturally drain, because if you watch, you'll see there is quite a bit of oil that's coming off of those. So we're just going to let those drain, give them a little toss. And then we're going to go ahead and bring those over here to our paper towel. And then I'm going to put this back in, and then we're just going to do this all over again. My deep fryer came back up to temperature very quickly. That's what we want. Okay, so that has been about 25 minutes for us in our little envelope, and as you can see, it's blew up, because if it's not blown up like this, then you didn't have it sealed correctly. But since this has been blown up, that tells me that that was sealed correctly. Now what we're going to do is just leave it set here for about 5 minutes while the juices reabsorb back into the burgers. So, still got my French fries going here. I've got one more batch to go. But what I wanted to show you guys is that the key to a really, really, really good burger is, of course, buns. You want to have a soft bun, has a nice soft center, not an old bun, so get fresh buns if possible. We just got these today, so they are super fresh. But here's some of the condiments that we like, and I'll just show you how I dress a burger. So what I do is I start off with some mustard, and this is just plain old table mustard. So I start off with some mustard, and I'm just going to put a little zigzag like that of mustard on my bun. And then you can do lettuce. We eat spinach here in our house, so I'm going to put down a layer of spinach, just like that. Oh no, bad spinach leaf. So then here's the rest of our condiments that we have. I've got some yellow American cheese. We have some grilled onions, dill pickle relish, you can use dill pickles of course, and mayonnaise. So I'm going to go ahead and on top of my bun here, what I typically do is I put about a teaspoon of mayonnaise. I just spread that out like that. And then to that, I add a teaspoon of my grilled red onions. And on top of that, I do my dill pickle relish, and I spread that around. And that's kind of the top of my bun. And then, the moment you guys have all been waiting for is these delicious little envelope burgers that we made. Just be careful because they are steamy and they are hot. So there's that burger. He's going to go on there just like that, and you can see it's nice and plump. And I'm going to take a piece. Oops, sorry. I'm going to take a piece of this delicious cheese. I'm going to stick that right on top there. And then I'm going to crown that just like that. And you can see got a nice, big, juicy, thick burger. I'm going to go ahead and finish my buns here, finish the rest of my burgers, and we'll come back and show you guys what they taste like. Alright guys, so the burgers are done, and you can see they are nice and thick, and now it just comes down to biting into them and trying it. You can see they're nice and juicy. A lot of flavor.
It's so good.
Those are really good.
You can definitely taste the spices. I tasted some of that paprika.
The liquid smoke coming out in there. And we got delicious crispy restaurant style fries.
That tastes
Those are good.
That tastes better than McDonald's.
I would hope they taste better than McDonald's. Alright guys, so subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, share with somebody that you think would enjoy this recipe or just watching us do this. And we hope to see you again next week.
Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye.
Say hi. You ready to test some good food? Hi.
Ready.
Is it good?
So ready.